I'm Harvey Hubbell. This is Harvey Hubbell Show and Tell. And Donna, can you say your last name? You know your last name. And say your last name. And you're an influencer. You have the longest name and then the name of your site. What is it?
Donna Hejtmanek.
Okay, let's put that as a font under her as it comes down because I love that. All right, that's great. Okay, now I'm lucky enough to be able to talk with you, and I thank you very much for giving us time today. What's the name of your operation? What is it? I mean, it's a Facebook site, but you're a phenomenon. This is the phenomenon.
Yeah, we're going on 4 years in August.
4 years.
So it's called The Science of Reading: What I Should Have Learned in College.
That is one long name, but it says it all. It says it all.
Truly. It truly does. And in fact, NCTQ came out with a report this week about teacher prep programs. And I don't know if you've seen it, but it's not good. It's not good. Only 25% of the schools in the U.S. are teaching based on evidence-based practices or scientifically based practices. In this day and age, when that information's been out for 30 plus years.
You know, they say for someone who can't read, lives one life. Someone who can read lives 10,000 lives.
Oh, so true.
And we're now not teaching people how to read in our nation.
Yep. You know, I had direct impact on that. You know, for my whole career, I taught little kids, you know, little first graders, second graders. I did some dabble in some high school kids, not so good. But recently, past year, I tutored an adult for almost a year and a half, an adult dyslexic, and it was so eye-opening for me as an educator of how to approach an adult as opposed to a little kid. I used to tell Mark, I said, I'm learning more from you than you are from me, because I had never had that experience before. Sadly, he passed away unexpectedly. And so I don't know what the possibilities could have been for him, but he was brave enough to come and seek help. And I have to hand that to him. You know, he was an advocate to the very end.
Well, it's stigmas and the self-esteem, and it all starts when you were talking about working with these little kids. So wait a minute, I got a question for you. So how did you get to become a teacher? How did you get to become an educator? How did you start working with little kids?
I was probably 15, 16, and I remember talking to my girlfriend's mom, and I said, you know, I want to be a teacher's aide. That's what I want to do. And she looked at me and she goes, no, you want to be the teacher. They make more money. So, and I think it was a confidence issue that I only thought I could be the aide. And she encouraged me to do the teacher thing. And then that's when I went into the counselors, you know, because, you know, as a junior, you have to see your counselor and they talk to you. And I think that's what happened at that point. And I said, I want to be a teacher.
But why? Why did you want to be a teacher? Why did you want to be a special ed teacher? What's the genesis?
Draw? Yeah, I don't know. I just I have a lot of compassion for people, and I think maybe that's what drew me in. I don't know.
Okay.
That was a long time ago, Harvey. I have to remind you.
Well, I know. In our country, I'm not going to ask you how long or where it was, but was our schooling better in those days or worse than right now? If you were a teacher, that young Donna that got out of college and she goes in, and you were probably a teacher's aide at one time. You helped a teacher. You went in.
I was. I worked at a daycare center for years, you know, as a college student, right? So education back in the 70s, it was certainly a lot simpler. I remember the day we got phones in our classroom. You know, we had to go down the hall to answer a phone call. So think about where we've come technologically, how we've advanced. Did we know what we were doing? No. I remember teaching from a basal. That's all we knew. And it was slower and louder. That's all you did. That's all you knew, right? Basal reader, the readers that came with a program, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. And I didn't know what to do differently because I didn't get that training. But about 10 years into my training, into my teaching experience, so I had taught for 10 years at that point, I took a training out of, it's called Project Read. It came out of Minnesota. It was Orton Gillingham based approach. And I took that training, and it was transformational for me. As a teacher, as an educator, I finally had something that I could put my hands on and say, hey, this is effective. And I felt like I was being effective with my students, and I had a scope and sequence to follow, and actually getting down to what kids with disabilities really need. It's that real strong phonemic awareness phonics piece that I wasn't giving them. When you're using a basal, it's basically a sight word approach. Let's just read and become readers, and that's not how it works, especially for the kids with disabilities, as you well know.
Well, okay. So what you and I know. So I'm a kid in the 60s. I'm a kid in the 70s. Teachers didn't know what dyslexic was. I didn't know what dyslexic was. Teachers didn't know what dyslexics were. Come to find out,
and I hate to tell you, they still don't.
No, they don't. But it goes back to that adult that you taught how to read, and the self-esteem, the shame. He doesn't know why he didn't know how to read. The teachers didn't know why. So he must be dumb. Or in the case of young Harvey Hubbell, he's a troublemaker. I mean, by the time you're in high school.
Oh, no, not you.
Yeah, by the time believe it or not, I wasn't always a little angel you see before you. So the discipline problems, so let's say that, my friend Donna went off and started with little kids. You could have went and started with high schoolers. So talk to me about dropout rate with with teachers. You know about dropout rates. You were an educator your whole entire life, your whole entire career.
Right.
So what's the statistic? Do you know? Like I heard, like in the first 5 years, 50% drop out. Is that close?
I don't know the statistic, but I would say the attrition rate has got to be really high.
And could it be because we're not training our teachers how to teach?
Well, that's one of it. But I think if you've been in a classroom lately, and I know you have been, but you've probably been in classrooms that no one is throwing desks or, the crazy stuff that goes on in classrooms, it's real. And we have kids that are we have very sick kids that come to school for whatever reason, whether they are exposed to drugs or poor parenting or low socioeconomic, things going on in their world. They come to school, they're angry, they're sleep deprived, they're food deprived. They are not ready to learn. And so they come to school and they're angry, and they rule the roost. And I've seen it more than once.
But Donna, if you ask me to read, and you're a high school teacher, and you ask me to read, and I have to read in front of the classroom, I'm going to punch you in the head. So I don't, and then you send me to the office, and guess what? I don't have to read.
Exactly.
And so the teacher doesn't know what's going on, and it just says this kid is just a bad egg, a bad apple that we have here.
Go to the prisons. They're filled with people who can't read or struggle with reading. I mean, what is it? 75% of inmates are fourth or third grade below in reading.
But now you set me up about it, because I believe everybody can make a difference in the world. And you, my friend Donna, with a lot of long last name and a long Facebook site, you made a difference. So now here you are. You're a kid, then you're a kid teacher, and you're a teacher kid, and you're teaching kids. And then as you go through all of this stuff, you go through 10 years. You go, hey, I didn't know how to do it. You're beginning to learn it. And listen. The thing is, I love teachers. They educate our nation's greatest resource because
Absolutely.
who can make those bad eggs good eggs? There was educators. I was a bad egg kid, but because of reading and because of my love of knowledge and teaching, I mean, yeah, I gave some teachers a hard time. I didn't mean to. I didn't know. I think things would have been different if we were all on the same team and we knew we were on the same team. So what makes Donna Donna? So we don't know why you became this teacher, a special ed teacher, but then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, I can do this better. So you're inspiring to so many other educators out there. Tell me about your path now. What happened? You got into an Orton Gillingham thing 10 years later, but
Yep,
what?
got into that and it served me very well. I felt like I was confident, like I mentioned before, like I had something to hang my hat on, like, hey, I can do this and put this all together. And then that's what happened. I mean, I would teach that, and then I actually worked at a high school in a transition program, which means I would set up programs for kids as they exited school. And so, going to college or going to the workforce, but a lot of those kids couldn't read. And so I was getting involved again with reading at the high school level. And then I moved to Wisconsin. And when I got to Wisconsin, oh, guess what? They have kids there, they can't read. So the cycle started all over again, right? And I very quickly became president of a nonprofit called Northern Wisconsin Literacy Association. And all we did was do trainings every summer to help people learn to become tutors for kids with struggling readers. And I did that on and off for 15 years while I was in Wisconsin. That's what spurred me to become involved legislatively. After I retired, I served on a task force for the Wisconsin legislators, and we drafted a bill to try to get some knowledge of dyslexia out in the schools. It didn't go very well because we had opposition from the State Reading Association, and the legislators were listening to them. And so we were able to draft one bill and have it passed, and it created a guidebook for Wisconsin, but it's very weak and not very effective. But the good news is I attended virtually legislation hearing just this past Tuesday on new legislation that I actually was heavily involved with 2 years ago in writing. Well, it's resurfaced. We're crossing our fingers, even though I'm not in Wisconsin anymore. But my heart is there because we put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into that bill. So we're hoping that it gets passed.
It sounds to me like you are a veteran of the reading wars.
Yeah, you could say that. But I don't want to be one of the soldiers. I want to be one of the just an advocate.
Well, you were a soldier. I mean, you were a soldier, and you've been promoted, but you
Yeah.
promoted yourself. I'm thinking when you said retired, it was Wilder says you're never too late to be who you could be, or something like that. I'm really bad.
That's a good way to put it, because when I retired, I remember people saying to me, so what are you going to do now? Because I kind of have a lot of energy. I don't sit very well. And I said, I don't know, it'll come to me, right? It always does, right? I'll figure it out, is what I said. And the first year was great. We traveled a lot and it was fun and this and that. And then midway to during the second year, this thing called COVID hit. And yep. And so, you're stuck in the house. Plus I was in a rural area, so I couldn't go anywhere. I wasn't going anywhere. And then I had all this time on my hands, so I created a site for the science of reading. It's called scienceofreadinginfo.com. And we put all kinds of, my husband and I, we were stuck in this office together. We had nothing else to do. So we put this site together, and it was all resources for science of reading based instruction and professional development, books, movies, YouTube, anything that had to do with the science. We put that in one document.
This is the secret sauce to success. What you're telling us, you put this it's a Facebook site?
No, the Facebook site was different. I'll tell you how the Facebook site got started.
Just tell me the first name of the first one. What is that called? That first thing that you and your husband put together in your office?
Oh, that was called the scienceofreadinginfo.com.
Is it still in existence?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry I haven't gone there yet, but I'm going to go there.
We host our events on that site. So we have a lot of events on the site.
I think I probably saw it. I just think it's like Facebook. I just connect.
And quite frankly, honestly, I haven't updated it for a while, so it's probably a little outdated, but there's so many resources out there now that, mine is just one of them. But to back up to tell you how the Facebook site got started, in 2019, I was testifying in front of the Senate Education Committee to promote the dyslexia handbook the guidebook that we tried to get legislated. And I was telling the senators, I said, I said, the problem is, the source of the problem is that our teachers are not being trained properly to become effective reading teachers. And I said, I'm going to write a book one day, and it's going to be called The Science of Reading What I Should Have Learned in College. And well, of course, I didn't write the book, but on August 14th of 2019, I was on my computer looking at my Facebook page, my private Facebook page, and I saw this thing called groups, and I'm like, what's that? Seriously, I didn't even know what a group was. Clicked on it and says, oh, you can start a group. I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to start a group. So Science of Reading What I Should Have Learned in College. And before I knew it, within a month, we had hundreds, probably 1,000 people on it. And it just continued to grow. And then the pandemic hit in March of 2020. And we were about 6 months into our existence. And that just catapulted, because every conference, every workshop, people would mention our page, and it just catapulted. It just continued to grow and grow. And then we started hosting book studies, and it just became
well, I was going to ask that how it grew, and you told me why it grew, but I still got to ask the why of the why. I mean, I have to ask the why of the why.
Right.
The name is brilliant. I mean, it says it all.
And I've taken a lot of flack for it too, because it is derogatory, no doubt. It wasn't meant to be. It was just the truth. Why are we not teaching this in college? And again, back to NCTQ, that is verified in this day and age. In June of 2023, they just did all this research, NCTQ and National Center for Teacher Quality. And only 25% of our schools are including discussion on the 5 pillars, and deep discussion and deep evidence-based practices that our teachers are being held accountable for, pre-service teachers.
Well, we made a film about that. Yeah. And
Really?
it's amazing that this is going on in our world, and you have all of these good people. These, it's called the Reading Wars, and these are soldiers, foot soldiers, these educators that go off and they want to just teach a kid how to read,
Right.
And they're not properly trained.
Right.
I mean, we have all the money, to help out any real war effort, and we don't want to lose soldiers, so we train them pretty good and to do certain things, and
right.
But we're not training our nation's greatest researchers, and unless they're meaning to do this, to us, why aren't we helping out these teachers? Why aren't we giving the teachers what they need in school? Why are the textbooks not including what's supposed to be there that's going to help these teachers out? The 5 pillars of why. I mean. So what is the reason? Tell me what's the reason. Is this a big conspiracy going on here, or what's going on? Just tell me what's your thoughts. I mean, you're going to get in trouble. We're already on the internet, so who knows what's going to happen?
I think it's extremely complicated, but it comes down to PhDs and adjunct and whoever's professors that are teaching our students. They hang around with people that they were trained under. And so if you're being trained in XYZ methodology, you only know XYZ methodology people, and you only hang with those people. So if you don't expose yourself to other approaches or ways, it's just not happening because you don't hang around with those people. You don't read that research. It's unfortunate that that happens. And it's unfortunate that those that are doing the research on evidence-based practices and scientifically based practices, somehow that research is not getting transmitted and translated for those that consume that information or need to know that information to apply it in the classroom. There's a disconnect, a huge disconnect between that information getting, again, transmitted and translated for teachers. What does this mean for me in the classroom?
Okay, how did you get it then? I mean, because you're a regular guy, you're just a teacher, and
right.
You got the honorable profession, and you're gonna teach people. But how did you get this knowledge?
Well,
let me just jump ahead. You didn't learn it in college.
I didn't learn it in college. So again, I took that summer course. It was just pure luck, basically, for me.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't pure luck. You had, I'm a filmmaker. You're an educator. We're shellfish people. They always say filmmakers are shellfish. It's like a little oyster. It's like a little animal that gets a little piece of sand in it, and then you sit. It's like bothers you all the time, and you make a pearl. You make a pearl of the thing that bothers you. That's what shellfish people do.
I never thought of it that way.
Well, so wait a minute. How did you know? Eventually, kids started learning when you were trying new things. They started, because that's why you continue doing it.
It's true, and it was effective, and I was empowered, right? Because I could see that what I was doing was effective, and that's what it takes. No teacher goes into education to fail kids. Teachers are the most giving, loving, genuine people out there. We're people lovers, and kid lovers. It's not easy. Teachers, we're all loving, giving human beings, and you don't go into that profession to fail kids. That's never been your intention. But when you start failing kids, because there's plenty of kids out there, if you're not giving them what they need, you failed them, but you just don't know what to do about it. And that's not a real good feeling. Even after I retired, I remember thinking, because I continued to learn because of the Facebook page. I continued to learn about my practices and what I did, what I could have done better. And I'm retired. So it helped me understand, this was the missing link for this student and this student. And it makes you feel bad because, you think about what I could have done, but I just didn't know.
So many educators have said exactly what you've said to me. What is Donna's advice to the new educators?
So there's lots and lots of professional development out there available to them for free if they seek it out. Or if you want to pay, great. There's lots of opportunities to do that. Do you want me to name names?
Yeah, give me names.
Okay.
What do you endorse?
One of my favorite right now is Top 10 Tools, which was developed by Dr. Deb Glazer. 95% Group now houses that. So you can go and get that training. And it used to be pretty inexpensive. I don't know what the cost is now. It's 40 hours of instruction. If you take the time to take that course and take it seriously, but you're going to learn a lot. AIM Institute has really good courses. Cox Campus has really good courses that are free. A lot of them are free. I mean, there's a bunch out there that, you can make. Letters is out there. That's the gold standard out there. That's a little more intense. It's 80 plus hours. So that's the drawback of that course, but it is very good. It's the original course on how the brain learns to read.
Louisa's in our film. Louisa Motes does letters. This is a podcast. We're on the thing called the internet. You can find anything you want to learn, but you have to know. I just went to college. They taught me everything I need to know about being a teacher until you walk out and you go in that classroom. Then you come home and you tell your husband or wife or your parents or your mate or whatever, I don't want to do this anymore because I'm not good at it. If I decided like to become a bank robber and I wanted to be a safe cracker and nobody taught me how to be a safe cracker and I'm like sitting there just dialing at it, and people like, the alarms are going off. They're like, I'm going to fail at being a safe cracker because nobody taught me how to break into the,
Right. Well, it's true. And, and teaching someone to read is one aspect of reading. There's classroom management. There's relationships with the adults in the work that you have to manage. It's so comprehensive and complex. Teaching is a extremely difficult profession, and no one appreciates that. I mean, especially outside people, they don't understand how complex it is. It's amazing that people survive.
It really is. And then, now, how many people are in your group today?
209,000.
So these are people looking for information. These are lifelong learners. You're a lifelong learner. We're all lifelong learners, and you want to make your profession better. Do you like our film? You can tell me if you don't like it.
I wouldn't tell you that.
You wouldn't tell me that?
I wouldn't tell you that.
Well, do you like our film or do you hate our film?
Of course I like your film.
Okay. So why are there so many films on literacy right now? What's going on in this country?
Producers, directors like yourself see that it's a crisis. It really is a crisis. We have, what are there, 5 films out now about this? And I think we should all get together and have a film festival. Don't you think that's a great idea?
I think we got to do that in Washington, D.C. We got to take those policymakers. I mean, because
I agree.
Filmmakers are like herding cats, just like, educators. We got to have one reason. Everybody who makes a documentary on education cares, just like the educators. We got to go to Washington, D.C., all the films, all the educators, and we got to go see our policymakers and our elected representatives because we elect them and they need our support. See, that's how it works. And they have to understand the science of literacy. They have to understand that, wait, we can do this. We can teach people. I mean, you were talking about dyslexia. I'm dyslexic, but our film, we don't, in fact, we don't really follow dyslexic kids around. We follow a kid with ADHD. We follow a shy kid because, I just think a film crew following a shy kid is just funny. No, I'm sorry. I shouldn't. But
that poor kid.
Yeah, poor kid. No, she's great now. She's
all cured.
She's great. No, she's great. Yeah, she's reading fine. She's like top of her class and stuff like that. So, I mean, why? Because of good educators. So if you could tell anybody anything about our film or our advocacy toolkit, what would you tell them about our film or our advocacy toolkit?
So what I really liked about the film is that you were in the classroom from the beginning of the school year to the end, and you showed the process of how the initial universal screening was done, and then you get the teachers, okay, here's what we have to work with, and then as the pressure of time that all teachers go through, okay, it's November, oh, we're getting nervous now, mid-year scores are going to be coming out, and that's in January, and that whole process that teachers have to go through with kids, and you start panicking because if little Johnny isn't picking up, you got to figure out why. And I really liked that whole process. And then the interview with, the teachers and the impact of using scientifically based instruction and how that has changed their approach to reading. I mean, it's very well done, very well done. And the fact that you end it on a high note with this advocacy toolkit, you're giving the audience something to walk away with and to continue the mission, whether it's in your school, in your county, in your state. You're giving people something that they can utilize to get that, to get the word out, because that's what it's about. This is, it amazes me that we used to get 1,000 members every week in our group, and it's slowed down, but I think that had to do with this end of the school year, and I'm seeing our numbers pick up again. But why is it we're getting droves of teachers getting this information and going, hey, I want to know more. So this awareness is happening in the States, but there's 3.5 million teachers. We got a long way to go.
What I always say is, we're minting brand new dyslexics every day, and dyslexic parents, and
it's true.
it's the same thing when these kids are coming out of college and they're becoming educators. When Donna was a kid, light turned on, like, wait a minute, how do I learn this? And when you find out you can get it for free on the internet, and there's a whole group of people that are just talking about this and will share this knowledge.
It's true. That's exactly what's happening. Again, though, this is slow drip method, right? It's not getting into the schools fast enough. We're still damaging kids. These major corporations, Fontes and Pinnell, Lucy Calkins, they continue to operate without any restrictions on them, continue to sell inferior products, and districts continue to buy them. It's like, where are these curriculum people and where are these superintendents? Why are they not getting the message?
We got to wake them up.
I mean, what are they not looking at? They all get Education Week, Ed Week, and they all get, information from different sources. Are they not reading about this movement that's happening in education? I mean, how could they not be aware? And then they continue to buy inferior products.
You see in our film, there's teachers, and then they meet with the reading facilitator and the reading specialist,
right?
And they're like coaches. So on your basketball team in school, and your baseball team and your football team, you have coaches, and your coaches have assistants, and they're all working. And it's like, hey, let's try this on this kid. Let's try this. So, newsflash, let's do that with reading. I mean, that's what the science of reading is, isn't it?
Exactly.
Taking the studies that are coming in, it's not any one size fits all, because all minds learn differently.
Well, would you buy a product that only works a third of the time?
These are the products that our factory is making, and now you take a look at the great United States, and now you go back to the prison situation, and right. We failed. It's not the teacher failed, because we haven't taught the teacher. We've failed every one of those people. Definitely. And they could have their anger issues. They could have all kinds of, they might have anger issues because, their families will say, hey, we just don't do good in school. Well, there's something going on. And I believe the right educators can unlock. Why is the 95% group called the 95% group anyhow?
Do you know?
Tell me. I think I know.
Well, because research shows that 95% of kids, if given the proper instruction, can reach grade level achievement. 95%.
Then how come? So, okay, how many people in prison can't read?
75%.
We have the answer, don't we?
I'm telling you, here's this report. This is the executive summary of the NCTQ report. And I sent it to Amy because I think every teacher should read this. Every superintendent should read this. Every college professor, dean should be reading this. And I feel, because of the nature of our Facebook group, we didn't learn this in college. I feel a personal responsibility to be the spokesperson for stuff like this, because this is exactly what is causing our problem, this perpetual problem, because you're just producing people that don't have the skills, and by no fault of their own, don't have the skills to be effective reading teachers. They might be effective in the classroom and behaviorally, interpersonal relationships. They may be a great math teacher or social studies teacher, but if you can't teach a kid how to read effectively and efficiently, then we've failed them. Read and write, any literacy.
Well, I want to be Donna when I grow up, and I'm going to tell you what I think is sexy as white papers, and that's why we put them on our advocacy toolkit. Mm-hmm. Because people write these things and then they put them in a file cabinet, and if you're in the university, and they're sitting in this dark thing. But nowadays we're passing these things around. These are like these revolutionary pamphlets out there. Next thing you know, Next thing you know, people are going to start teaching this stuff in college.
Wouldn't that be grand?
Yeah, our advocacy toolkit, we love doing the same thing that, like I said, I'm going to be you when we want to be you when we grow up. And it's getting that information. This is the age of information. We're information warriors. You can get these things and you can put them on your site. I mean, you guys, the amount of information that your educators are all giving the information back and forth and getting it to the schools. It's going to the Board of Education, to school superintendents, to the principals, the policymakers, the congressmen. I mean, you and I talked. And you were telling me, you said go to the school superintendent meeting, conference, which I went to, and we have to go to where the decision makers are. That's what I mean.
That's right, and I truly believe that. I'm going in, I think it's November, to Excel in Ed's conference in Atlanta, because they're another organization that really is legislatively involved across the nation to support organizations like the one I was involved with to get legislation passed. I mean, that's what has to happen. That's part of it. That's not all of it, because this should not be a politically driven. It really shouldn't be. A good friend of mine said it's about power, politics, ego, and money. The four things in the world: power, politics, ego, and money. And why are professors reluctant to change? A lot of that is ego.
But if you see a film like Hopeville, or you see something like Right to Read, or you see Truth About Reading, you get compassion, you get empathy for these struggling readers, and you realize, wait, the ability to fix it, and we didn't fix it. I mean, that's the thing is, I might not know how to read, so I might not read a book. I might not read this paper that you gave us, because I can read. But when it's a film and you're just going to invest 80 minutes, we need your buttocks in a seat and your eyeballs on a screen. And we're going to spell it out for you. We're going to just tell you, and we're going to go visit all the top experts and all the top neuroscientists. We're going to break it down. The reason I make films is, like, if I can understand it, if I can figure it out and I can understand it, then anybody can do it. And we want to make this stuff, take it to the layman. We want to take it to the school. We made this. Who's our audience? School superintendents, policymakers, decision makers, principals, teachers.
Love it. That's exactly what you have to do. It's exactly what you have to do. So the Truth About Reading focuses on the fallout of kids that didn't make it become adults that can't read. And when you carry that shame your whole life, and then you're an adult and you're trying to function in a world with the shame and disability, how disabling it is. I mean, that movie is extremely powerful, because you're seeing the results of inaction that happens for adults. Right to Read is about inequality of how kids of color. Statistic. You want to hear some statistics?
Hit me up. I love statistics.
Okay, 37% of all students on the NAEP in fourth grade are below basic. It's worse for kids of color. 56% of Black students are below basic. 50% of Hispanic are below basic. 67% of ELL kids are below basic. And even worse for kids with disabilities, 70%. That just came out. That's on this document as well. And so 1 out of 3 kids is not good enough. It's criminal, really. In this day and age, with all the money, the billions of dollars that we put into education, and this is the best we can do, there's got to be a better way.
You said it all right there. Each of these films are uniquely different. They tell a different right. story, and it's almost like going to school where you have different teacher is going to be able to tell the story differently. So these filmmakers all tackle the problem, and they tackle it from the end that they know.
The different perspectives. Mm-hmm.
Different perspectives, which is taking a look at the whole entire, looking at the coin from the other side and looking at the whole object.
And they're all excellent films, every single one of them. we got to do that film festival.
Well, I think, so I'm talking about, policymakers doing it, but I think anyone that shows one of the films, I think they should show all the films because they have a community. Back in the old days, I wasn't there. The Greek city states, they would teach you. You're gonna have your morality lessons in theater. I mean, now we do it on TV. We get our morality from TV or maybe the internet, the wild west of the internet. So at least when you're going to study some subject, i.e. the science of literacy and what's going on in our great nation, here's the thing, Donna, and this is fixable. And people care about it because they wouldn't be making movies. They wouldn't be joining your site in the thousands if people didn't care about it. They want to know what we can do about it.
Right.
And it all starts. That's the reason we made Hopeville was I wanted to see how kids, first you're home, you're playing with mom and other kids, and mom's like, kid's brilliant, smart, Then first year of school, the teacher's like, not so much. The kid's not so smart. And I wanted to see how. First, you couldn't read, and you're imagining and doing all this stuff. First, you couldn't read, then you learned to read. I wanted to see how that magic happened. That's why we went into a year in the classroom and hung out there to watch. And going back to what you were saying about our teachers, like all teachers, we really captured. I mean, we were like in a prize fight. You're hanging out with these teachers, and it's a race, it's a battle, it's a war, it's an action film, and it's about first grade teachers. Come on, it is.
It's true.
You're
is. Right. It's an action film.
It's an action film where you see the heroes are your first grade teachers who are teaching your kids how to read, and you don't know it, you don't realize it, but you look at the high school and you look at the kids throwing the desks, and the kids said, those kids probably can't read. I mean, we could test those. I'm not saying all of them, but
right,
majority of them.
I agree.
That's a fixable problem, and it became somebody else's problem because, I failed him in first grade, second grade, third grade. He was being 2 years, 3 years behind, 4 years behind. We have to fix this. That's like saying, Mike, I got a flat tire, but I'm just gonna soldier on, and it'll fix itself.
And ride on the rim.
I'm gonna ride on the rim, and it's gonna fix itself. Well, I thought it was gonna fix itself. No, we have to fix things when they break. So what did I miss? What do you want me to know? What do you want our audience to know? What do you want who to know? What do we need them to say?
What we need to say is, it's only up to you. You as a teacher, you as a parent, you as whatever role you are in, you are responsible to make improvements in how you approach your job. Whatever role you're in, you have to do the best you can by educating yourself, informing yourself of how you can improve your practice. Even if you're an administrator or a decision maker or a policy maker, what can you do to improve your practice to make things better given these dismal statistics? Is that okay with you? Is that okay with you that only one out of 3 kids in your school district is going to be a proficient reader and writer? Is that okay? If not, what are you going to do about it? I'm going to end on a note. I mentioned earlier there was testifying this week in Wisconsin in the Senate committee, I believe. No, it was the Assembly. And they had a school there that has gone into the science of reading. And the superintendent's name is Joe Garza. And he presented and he said, 7 years ago, I advocated for Fontes and Pinnell. And he said, I own that. He says, I own that. He says, I didn't know any better. But 2 years ago, we decided to change because it's not okay that I think it was like 20% of my kids are not good readers. That's not okay, even though they're in a very affluent district. So he said, that's not okay with me. And so they changed. He had the courage and the foresight to do that. Now, if all districts could be honest with themselves, really honest with themselves, and looking at our districts, and even going down to the teacher level, be honest with yourself, look at look at what you're doing. Is it good for everyone? Is everyone achieving to their highest potential? And if not, you have to ask yourself why and what can I do about it?
Donna, that is beautiful. And you, I mean, you're a I can't swear, but you're a get it doner, a beep get it doner. Right? You're a beep
Sometimes.
getter doner. You've started it, and so if one person can do it, two people. This is also why we made the movie. If one classroom can do it, two classrooms can do it. If two classrooms can do it, four classrooms can do it. If four classrooms can do it, and so what you just said is like, hey, the power is in you.
This doesn't happen without funding, but it can be done in a much more economical way. It's not about spending millions and millions on curriculum. It's about teacher knowledge and administrator knowledge. Because if they don't know, how can they be effective leaders?
That's beautiful. That is really beautiful. I really appreciate your time today,
You're
and
welcome.
I am so looking forward to hanging out with you on the West Coast. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Harvey. It was a pleasure and an honor.
The honor is ours, Donna. We'll see you soon. Much
See you
love.
soon. Take care.
Bye
Bye-bye.
bye. Thank you. We're good. We're good.